Let's get more analysis on this now. Talk to Huseein Ibish from the American Task Force on Palestine, a non-partisan organisation based in Washington, D.C. Good evening, Mr. Ibish. What are the chances of a ceasefire as you see them tonight?
Thank you very much. I think they're very low, unfortunately. We need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire immediately for both moral and humanitarian and political reasons. But I think the cabinet in Israel is determined to go forward. I don't think anything that's happened so far has shaken their will to proceed. It looks like they are prepared for several stages, including some kind of ground stage. And this could take not just weeks, but possibly months to resolve itself, particularly if they feel that things are going to plan. So I think as badly as we need a ceasefire, it's probably not going to happen anytime in the near future.
And of course, one other problem here, the Israelis, the US and some Western nations consider Hamas, don't they, to be a terrorist organisation, and they say they don't talk to terrorists. Yes. How does that hamper a solution and trying to negotiate a way out?
Right. It absolutely does. And similarly, Hamas says they don't recognize Israel and they won't talk to Israel. So you've got a war now between two political leaderships that don't recognize or talk to each other, don't recognize the legitimacy of the other, and don't want to talk to each other. Obviously, that makes life extremely difficult. They did have a long-term ceasefire that expired last week, and various parties, including several Arab states, sort of pleaded with Hamas try to find a formula to extend the ceasefire. They didn't, and I think that is part of the reason why we have this situation. Of course, there's the Israeli election going on and domestic politics in Israel. There's the interregnum between American administrations, but there's also the political pressure that's been caused on Israeli politicians that's been caused by the end of the ceasefire and a kind of opportunity for them to take this kind of action.
Do you think Barack Obama taking office now in just a couple of weeks over in America can bring anything new to the negotiating table, can make any headway there with this crisis?
That's a very interesting question. That's an extremely interesting question. And in fact, I've been interviewed just now by an Arabic station that was demanding to know why he hasn't said anything. Well, he's not going to do anything until he comes into office, because he's not going to take responsibility without having authority. So that means there are 20-some days before he actually has the responsibility and has to start saying things and has to take responsibility for the American position. That gives quite a bit of time for Israel to either do a great deal of the most dramatic, violent things that it intends to, or for the Israelis to come up against some unexpected complications whereby they would start actually wanting pressure from the United States to give them a cover to start backing away from this if it turns out that there's a mistake. Under either of those circumstances, that opens up more space for someone like President Obama to take action. Certainly, he's managed to rebrand the United States in the eyes of a lot of the world, including a lot of the Arab world, and there are interesting opportunities. But I do think that there's a rather unbridgeable gap between Israel and Hamas that we just talked about, that something's got to give there before you can have any serious diplomacy. One thing that might be done is to bolster the responsible Palestinian leadership in the West Bank, and certainly Obama and others could do a lot more to do that.
Mr. Ibish, one last final question, briefly as you can. What are the broader implications, both economic and political, to the rest of the world if this situation isn't sorted out quickly in the Middle East as we head into 2009?
Yeah, I mean, already oil prices have gone up as a partial result of tensions because of this conflict. And I think it does have serious economic consequences as a destabilizing variable. But in addition to that, and more significantly, the political ramifications of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict are absolutely disproportionate. I mean, this is not just a conflict between a few million Jewish Israelis and a few million Palestinian Arabs in a small strip of land on the Mediterranean. This has incredible political significance, and it plays out all over the region and beyond, into the Islamic world and even into the West in some ways. And certainly you can see how right now, a lot of blame is being shouldered by Egypt and other Arab states. Rather, there's a lot of criticism in the Arab world coming from Iran, from Hezbollah, from Hamas, from others, and from various Islamists and some of their friends, even on the left wing, trying to focus attention on the government of Egypt and trying to focus attention on various Arab regimes. So even in terms of domestic Arab politics in states like Egypt and others, this has tremendous destabilizing ramifications, especially if it goes into a long extended ground war where anger just builds. So I think there's a great deal at stake here. And the sooner we can get to a ceasefire, the better off for everybody.
We're all hoping for that, of course. Huseein Ibish from the American Task Force on Palestine. Thank you for your thoughts on the programme here at RT tonight.